Hello everyone, welcome to a versus Let's Play of Mega Man 8. We are doing 6 different versions of the game. We are going crazy today with this.
Mega Man 8.
So we're playing multiple versions. We're playing the PlayStation 1 version, Sega Saturn version, Xbox One, GameCube, the original Xbox, and the original Xbox backwards compatible on a 360. So you're trying to set my controls here. So we're going to see which version is the best one here, which, spoiler alert, I'm already going to tell you it's the Sega Saturn version. Because the Sega Saturn version has some good exclusive content of fighting a couple classic bosses in it. For whatever reason, they did not port that over to any of the ports, not even Legacy Collection 2, which would have been a really smart idea to do, actually. So all these versions, with the exception of the Saturn version I'm playing now, I played earlier and pre-recorded. If I had 5 other people to hang out and play these with at the same time, 5 capture cards, I would definitely do that. That'd be a lot of fun to do. So I actually really like this game. A lot of people prefer the classic 8-bit Mega Man games over this, and I do too, but I still think this is a good one. I don't think comparing the different versions of Mega Man makes this one a bad game. In fact, I'm actually really excited for the Mega Man 11 coming out with the 2.5D graphics. I actually really liked the Mega Man X on the PSP, where it kind of did the same thing, the 2.5D graphics. In fact, I wish they would have poured that over to a console. Not that it's better than the Super Nintendo version. Just different, but still has the same gameplay. Still really good. As long as it still has that classic gameplay, it'll be really good. So a little detail of the various versions. The Xbox One version that I'm playing, or that I played, was part of Mega Man Legacy 2, which of course had Mega Man 7, 8, 9, 10 on it. And I bought that on the Xbox One because it was basically a physical version of 9 and 10. And then the Mega Man Anniversary games, which came out somewhere between 10 and 15 years ago, that had Mega Man 1 through 8 and the 2 arcade games on it as well. A lot of people don't know about the arcade games. And the Anniversary editions, especially for their time, were really good ports. Not as accurate to the original as the Mega Man Legacy games, but still really, really close. I tried to edit this and get the scaling as best I could. Really hard to get the scaling correct with some of these versions.
I got it, Doctor.
6 different versions playing on the screen at the same time. But all of the versions except for the GameCube version, which is actually being played on a Wii, plays at a progressive resolution.
Welcome back.
And the PlayStation 2 version, which I don't have, probably does the same exact thing. It plays it in like a interlaced version, or interlaced signal. And you can see that with like the flickering effects and stuff like that, where it kind of has like that line look on it. Where it's like every other line of resolution appears in every other frame.
Let's do it.
If you had all three of the original consoles back in the day, like the old Xbox, PlayStation 2, and GameCube, definitely the Xbox version was the one to get. Because just about every Xbox original game supported a 480p signal on a modern television back in the day. Of course, the original version of this game was displayed in 240p, which I'm using the Framemeister for the Sega Saturn version, and the PS1 version I actually play through PS3 because I play all my PS1 games through PlayStation 3, which that upscales to a modern definition through an HDMI output. So, easiest way to play PlayStation 1 games on modern television is through PlayStation 3. All PlayStation 3s play PlayStation 1 games. Doesn't matter if they play PS2 games or not. And PlayStation 3s are really, really common, easy to find. So the GameCube version that I got going there, I'm actually playing on the Wii because GameCube or the Wii is 100% backwards compatible with GameCube games, except for some of the newer Wiis. And the Xbox, the original Xbox version that's playing on the 360, speaking of scaling earlier, kind of has some trouble scaling correctly, which you can't really tell unless you play like the older Mega Man games on it. Like that energy bar, it's kind of like every other line of resolution on the original NES. You'll kind of see like some of the lines kind of like bigger than others when you're playing that version on a 360. Like it just doesn't scale the resolution right. If you're playing it on the Xbox itself, you don't really see that too well. Or at least I didn't on my TV, on my Panasonic Plasma. I kind of mess around with it before shooting new videos. But if you got a 360 handy, it's definitely a better deal to get the Anniversary Edition, which you can find. I got mine for like $7 not too long ago. Had to rebuy it because I sold my older copy a while back. But Mega Man 8 kind of has some issues playing on the 360 through the original Xbox version now. Like some of the, you can see some of the sprites aren't displaying correctly, and there's a little bit of slowdown in some areas, but it's still not too bad. I still think it plays a little better than the GameCube version, mainly because I'm not a fan of the GameCube version, and I have a hard time using that controller on these kind of games. A lot of people love the GameCube controller. I really don't like it, but all the other Mega Man games on the Anniversary Edition play just fine on the 360. Mega Man 8 seems to be the one that has the most problems, which is understandable. I mean, it's a PlayStation 1 game kind of being ported to newer hardware, which is being emulated on newer hardware. So it's like an emulation of an emulation in a way. Kind of weird. But, I mean, probably the best way to play it in terms of like the accuracy to the original, without getting the originals, is the legacy versions. And also the sound output is much better on the legacy games. Because one thing I noticed when I was playing all these is some of the sound effects would actually come through my front speaker, and some of the speakers a little louder, which is probably due to the original versions not really like supporting like 5.1 stereo or 5.1 optical sound or anything like that. But both my Xbox and Xbox 360 are connected to my sound system through optical, and of course the HDMI through the Xbox One. But in terms of like the sound effects and all that kind of stuff, there's really not much of a difference. It's just like those little sound quality things. So there really isn't much reason to do like a sound comparison in this video. And I don't think I've noticed any difference in sound quality between the PlayStation 1 and the Sega Saturn version.
See you in my dreams.
So the Sega Saturn version is definitely the most rare. Usually costs around $200 to $300, whether disc or complete. The Japanese version of the game plays pretty much identical, just with some Japanese voice acting and stuff like that. But that's definitely a much low-cost alternative. It's unfortunate they never ported the Saturn version to any newer hardware. Maybe they'll port it to the Switch version coming out, but it's unlikely. Speaking of the Switch version, at the time of making this, yesterday they announced the date and everything for the Legacy collections to come out on the Nintendo Switch, which I was really looking forward to the Legacy version on the Nintendo Switch, because I was hoping to get rid of my Xbox One version and instead get the Nintendo Switch, because I love the Nintendo Switch. I think it's a much better system than the Xbox One. I'm sure if you've seen some of my past videos, I talk about kind of how I don't like the Xbox One too much. I ended up getting another system just to play games with friends, and I got such a backlog of digital games and the backwards compatibility. But I really don't buy physical games on the Xbox One anymore, with the exception of a few things. I mean, I mainly bought Legacy Collection 2 because of Mega Man 9 and 10. It's the physical version of 9 and 10. But the Switch version that's being announced, it contains Mega Man Legacy 1 and 2, which Mega Man Legacy 1 is on the physical cart, but if you buy the physical version, you have to download the second game. It comes with a download code. I mean, they're small games. I mean, these games are like 10, 15 years old. Older than that, really. It's pretty pathetic how games like Breath of the Wild and Skyrim and whatnot fit on a cartridge just fine, but Capcom's pulling that bull crap. And I look at it as a form of DRM. I really don't buy physical games that require day one downloads or anything like that anymore. I avoid purchasing them. I think it's a horrible business practice. The only exception if it's like online content, like let's say they come out with a Call of Duty for Switch, and if all the online multiplayer content is downloaded, then that's fine. I can live with that. Kind of like Doom did that, and I love Doom on the Switch. But in the case of Mega Man, like, you know, single player content, I look at it as a form of DRM. People say Capcom's being more cheap than anything, and it's probably so, but it's more DRM to me. And I won't buy it. I didn't buy Bayonetta on the Switch. I didn't buy Resident Evil Revelations 1 and 2 because both those games did the same thing. And if they do the same thing with that Street Fighter Collections game that's coming out on the Switch, where it has like 12 different Street Fighter games, if that requires games to be downloaded, then I won't play that either. Or I won't buy that either. Hopefully they'll change their mind before the release, or maybe it's a misprint or something like that, or maybe a greatest hits version or something like that will come out. But probably not. Like I said, it's really unfortunate because I was really looking forward to Mega Man Legacy on the Nintendo Switch, even though I own all the original copies and multiple versions of them. And they also announced the Mega Man X games for the Nintendo Switch as well. So hopefully they don't do that with those as well, which they probably will, unfortunately. So in terms of which version of these is the best, I mean, obviously the Sega Saturn version is probably the best because it has exclusive content. All the other game versions are still really good, though. I mean, if not having the little extra content of fighting against the couple classic bosses, not that big of a deal to you, you can play either version. But I scored Legacy 2 for $14 brand new off Amazon when it came out by pre-ordering it. Gotta love Amazon Prime. And again, I mainly bought it for physical versions of 9 and 10. But yeah, I mean, any one of these options is a good option to play Mega Man 8 or any of the Mega Mans. I mean, the worst options is probably the GameCube version or the Xbox version on the 360, just because of the sprite issues or slowdown and whatnot. GameCube version still plays really well. It's just the sprite flickering issue with the interlaced graphics, which if that doesn't bother you, then it's not really that big of a deal. But like fighting Swordman, which you'll see up here later, you'll see when he does his not the sword shield ability, but like the sword spinning ability, there's a little bit of slowdown, which the GameCube was weaker hardware compared to the old Xbox, and it probably does the same thing on PlayStation 2 version as well, which was even weaker hardware. GameCube version, or the GameCube system, was actually pretty powerful hardware. It's just the original Xbox was just much more powerful than either of those systems. PlayStation 2 actually had the weakest hardware out of all the games of that, or all the systems of that console generation. So if you're trying to capture that, let's say for example you're playing all those versions on an original CRT, and you're trying to capture that CRT look with Mega Man Anniversary, your best bet is to play like on an original PlayStation or something like that, or yeah, on an original PlayStation or Saturn, because it's not going to display at 240, it's going to display at 480i. Oops, I missed that bolt. That's okay. I'll retry that.
Ready.
So I'm hoping to do a future video of Mega Man and Bass on the Super Famicom with the Japanese Super Nintendo, which was never released in the United States until the Game Boy Advance version, which in Japan, the Super Nintendo, the lifespan of Super Nintendo was actually longer than it was in the United States. And Mega Man and Bass actually came out after Mega Man 8 did on PlayStation and Saturn. So they actually used a lot of the leftover sprites and content from Mega Man 8 and kind of poured them over to Mega Man and Bass on the Super Famicom, which is why the graphics on that game look really, really good. And I got both the GBA version and the Super Famicom version that I play on my Super Nintendo. Maybe I'll do a comparison of that to Mega Man 8 as well. And that's a really good game too. It's hard, but it's a lot of fun. I think it's a really good underrated Mega Man game.
Ready.
But a lot of the stages in that game kind of have like recycled content from this game. A couple of the bosses, like Astro Man and Tengu Man, were reused for that game. Some of the movement patterns and the weapons you get are actually different. Oops. How the heck did I do that? Oopsie. We'll try that again.
Ready.
There we go. So I gotta get the bolts here. Funny thing about the bolts that you collect in this version of Mega Man versus all the other Mega Man games that you have to collect bolts is in the other Mega Man games, when you collect bolts, you actually get them from random enemy drops. Or in this one, there's actually a set amount of them throughout the stages. So you can only get so many of them. Versus like the other Mega Man games where you can just farm enemies and eventually get a bunch of them. I want to say it was Mega Man 5 where they added bolts. 5 or 6. Or maybe it was 7. Might have been 7. I haven't played 5 and 6 for a while. A lot of speedrunners like to play Mega Man 5. See the HDQ a lot. 6 I'm not really a fan of. I think it's actually the worst in the series. It's still pretty good, but not the best.
Jump, jump, fly, fly. Jump, 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 jump.
I think Mega Man 4 is actually the best.
Fly,
I used to think Mega Man 3, but I think 4 actually stands the test of time a little better.
jump.
And Mega Man 2 is kind of more commonly known as the best one, and that 2 is definitely the best in terms of that. Probably has the best weapons. I mean, it was definitely like the first Mega Man to be like really good. I mean, first Mega Man was definitely good, but the second one just really good. But I still think 4 is the best, or it's at least my favorite. I never actually owned any of the Mega Mans when I was a kid. My parents had a convenience store where they rented movies and eventually some video games, you know, back in VHS days. And they had a copy of Mega Man 3 there, and I was just playing the back of the store all the time. So that's how I would get most of my Mega Man gigs. Or I'd have a friend over for the weekend, we'd rent one of the Mega Mans at the video store, or another friend would have the game, we'd go over to his house and play it or whatnot. First Mega Man game I actually owned, now that I think about it, was probably Mega Man 8 on the PlayStation. The first game I owned, well actually I owned the Game Boy, like the original Game Boy versions. I owned a couple of those. But in terms of like the original NES ones, the first one I eventually picked up later down the road was Mega Man 3 on the Play Choice 10 of all systems. Back when I had a Play Choice 10 arcade machine.
I'm home.
Bought a Play Choice 10 off of eBay about 12 years ago. I ended up selling it and making a little money off of it.
Welcome back.
I wish I still had it.
Right on. Right
But
on.
it would have been kind of a pain to eventually service the monitor and that
Good
kind of
luck,
stuff.
Mega Man.
Maybe I'll pick up another one or buy it back from the dude. I'm still friends with the dude that I sold it to.
Let's
But
go.
I bought the machine and then I bought various games for it off of eBay back when they were a little more easier to find on eBay. And I was surprised to even find the game had come out on Play Choice 10 because I didn't even know that. So,
Ready.
let's try that again. There we go. Forgot to equip the laser shot I got. So I usually prefer the laser shot upgrade to the Mega Buster over the other ones, just because of the penetrates through the enemies. Some of the boss fights later, where I end up using the Mega Buster, are a little easier with the laser shot, in my opinion. I try to mix it up when making these videos, kind of show the difference. But when you fight the green jelly monster, or the green devil, like I think they officially call it, I think it's a little easier with the laser shot. Or when you fight the second set of robots in this, I usually go after Swordman first. When Swordman has the flame shield up, the laser shot will actually pierce it. For whatever reason, Mega Man 7 and Mega Man 8, you actually fight the robots in sets of 4. You don't get all 8 to choose from. You pick the first 4 and then the second 4. Some of the original Game Boy games kind of did the same thing. And then Mega Man 8, they went back to letting you choose all 8 at once. So the shooter part where that they add in this game, that was a nice touch. Weren't afraid to try things that were new, try something different. I'm still the core Mega Man game. Because you actually don't get Rush in terms of like a power-up like in the old Mega Man games in this. But it was still a way to include them in the game. Which is fine. I didn't think it was too bad. Of course, I had the snowboarding part from earlier as well. A friend of mine hates Mega Man 8 because he hates the snowboarding. Mega Man X are definitely really good games, but I always like Mega Man 7 and 8 better than the X games. Just because I always enjoyed the classic Mega Man games more, and they were more of the actual sequels. Mega Man X is definitely really good. It's probably a masterpiece on the Super Nintendo, though. So they're not bad games in comparison by any stretch of the imagination. What can I say? I'm weird. I like Mega Man 7 over Mega Man X. I think Mega Man 7 is actually really good. I think according to Wikipedia, I don't know how true this is, but I think Mega Man 7 had like a 3.5 or 4 month development cycle for the Super Nintendo. Which, if that's true, that's pretty unreal.
Are you worthy of my
That's
challenge?
a good game for only 4 month development. If that's even true.
Here you go! No way! Tornado hold! Tornado!
Of course, Tengu Man and Mega Man Base, his movements are kind of the same, but like his attacks and stuff like that are slightly different.
Tornado hold! Yama-arashi! Yama-arashi! Red Bull.
Yeah, I really like Mega Man Base on the Super Famicom or Super Nintendo. I mean, a lot of the games that come out in the later cycle of Super Nintendo were just masterpieces. I mean, Nintendo 64 didn't come out for another year or two, or got delayed even further. It would have been neat to see what further games would have came out for that system. I mean, like Donkey Kong Country, Super Mario RPG, Killer Instinct, a lot of those games. I mean, it's amazing how many of the
Dr. Light.
Super Nintendo games in the end of the cycle were able to compete with the PlayStation and Saturn before the N64 came out. So here is where you'll see some of the content that's exclusive in the Sega Saturn version. So we get this bolt right here, and normally there's a second bolt. But instead of grabbing it right here, you go up this ladder and go in this room, and you gotta fight Cutman for it. Kind of a nice little touch they did. Here we fight Duo. I think his name's Duo. I always forget his name. If I remember correctly, assuming this is Wikipedia is right on this one too, is Duo was originally a concept for Mega Man 4. Because he was supposed to be like the version of Mega Man for Dr. Cossack. And they didn't put him in there for whatever reason, probably time constraints or something. And then eventually used the character for Mega Man 8. Which I think the character Beat, you know, that bird thing, I think that was originally supposed to be in Mega Man 3 as well. And of course, here's a cutscene of Mega Man finding the castle and getting owned by Dr. Wily for about a minute and a half worth of screaming, and then Duo saves him. Of course, the American version has such horrible voice acting. It's so bad it's good, I love it. I had to buy the English version of the Saturn game because of it. I couldn't settle for the Japanese version. Of course, those early disc-based games that had voice acting in them, they were pretty common to have pretty cheesy voice acting. First game to have really good voice acting back in that day was probably Blood Omen Legacy of Kain. Had exceptional voice acting for the time. Still holds up today, easily.
Ready.
Of course, like Resident Evil, the first one, that was another game with horrible voice acting. So Swordman level's kind of neat because it kind of makes it so you have to use all the weapons you collected from the first 4 boss fights to kind of get through the stage. This little section here, we got the yellow stone tablet on the wall, and then we got the red one, which means this one will be the green one. So we hit the switches, and yellow, red, green, and the door opens. Kind of nice little puzzle there. The weapons in this game actually aren't too bad. It's definitely a pretty solid Mega Man game. It's got that little extra stuff like the snowboarding and the shoot 'em up part, but for the most part, it's a core Mega Man game.
Ready.
Oh, that was lame.
Ready.
One of the things I like about Mega Man 7 and Mega Man 8 is because the controllers are 4 buttons or more. You can use one button as just a standard Mega Man's standard weapon, and another button for the special weapon, so you can actually fire both weapons. Nice little touch. Well, I am not doing too well on this.
Ready.
works again. So another thing that Mega Man 8 does unique compared to the other Mega Man games is when you die, all your weapon energy is actually refilled. I think it's the only Mega Man game that does that. Or at least from the main series.
Let's make this a fair fight. Bommy strike. Lane shield. Bommy strike.
Now if he does his
Lane shield.
flame shield, you'll see how, oh here we are. See the flame shield will still go, or the laser shot will still get that flame shield. So one of the reasons why I like to get the laser shot is for this fight here.
Lane shield. Nice shot.
And his rest of his patterns are pretty predictable once you learn them. Of course, out all the videos there, the 360 version I got a little behind on just because my timing was off because of the lag, and also my D-pad on the 360 controller isn't too good. They didn't design the D-pad on the Xbox 360 controller very well at all. I mean, you can take it apart and kind of rig it to get it to work a little better.
Search man, okay.
But another reason I like to play 360 games that are backwards compatible on the Xbox One.
Ready.
Although I still had an easier time than with that one than I did the GameCube controller. Which I already mentioned earlier, I'm not really a fan of the GameCube controller. Which I think the original design concepts for the GameCube controller was to not even have a D-pad, just to have an analog stick and that was it. So I guess what they got is better than no D-pad at all. But I still like the N64 controller better. I mean, the quality of the analog stick back then was horrible, but the layout I actually like. I didn't think it was too bad. So this part right here, you saw this where I got a little farther than this in my other videos, where you go up that ladder and you grab a bolt, but in the Saturn version, you go through a door, and you fight Woodman to get the bolt. So another nice little nod to classic Mega Man games. And of course, you can beat him with a flame sword. You know, to set wood on fire. And the flame sword actually penetrated his leaf shield. So another big difference about with the PlayStation and Saturn version of this game compared to the re-releases is the loading time. Yeah, because these were early disc-based games. They weren't too bad at the time. I mean, CD-based games were pretty new for the console market still, even with the Sega CD and the TurboGrafx 60 or TurboGrafx CD system that came out. One of the reasons why Nintendo decided to stick with cartridge for the N64. Of course, the other being that Nintendo was still in the cartridge business of selling the parts to the game developers. They wouldn't just make money on the game sold, they make money on the parts sold as well. But with loading times getting better on newer systems, all the newer versions, all the re-releases of this game are a little better. And I think the Mega Man 8 is available digitally on the PlayStation Network, on the PlayStation 3. Maybe the PlayStation 4 as well. So there's another option to play the game as well. if you don't feel like getting the disc. I don't know if it's any different or not. I know some of the PlayStation 2 re-releases on the PlayStation 3 were slightly different in terms of scaling and resolution.
Begin mission. Yes, sir. Let's go. Oh no. Go. Oh no. Deadly sword.
There we go.
Wahee Banzai.
So after Search Man is Astro Man, which Astro Man was also put in Mega Man Base, but has a much different fighting pattern and weapons and whatnot in that game.
Let's do it!
I'm Astro Man.
And I'm looking up right now, Mega Man 8 is available for the PlayStation 3 digitally, and the Vita and the PSP, and it's $6. So that's another option to get this game as well. I highly recommend it. So the Astro Man is actually my least favorite stage in this game. I think I can slide. There we go. That. Over this way. Sneak around here, flip the switch, grab the bolt, then backtrack. The tornado hold definitely helps to sneak through this part of the game a little quicker. So funny thing about the bolts that I mentioned earlier is since they're in certain place, there's only a certain number of them placed throughout the game. A lot of the ones in the earlier stage, you actually have to use the weapons you acquire in the second set of bosses to go back and backtrack in those stages to get them. So the game actually kind of encourages you to explore the previous stages a little bit. So that's kind of a nice touch. Almost died there. Gotta place this one just right. There we go. There we go. And now we fight Astro Man. So the last video that I recorded before playing this was the Xbox One version. Had a really good run on that. So Astro Man, I gotta wait for him to get a little lower here, so you get a good pattern here. So when you fire the search missile on him, it tries to home in on the orbs, so you gotta make sure that he's blocking the pathway, so it hits him.
Astro Crash!
And I usually beat this game in one sitting, so no reason to save it. So we'll use some of my bolts I just gathered.
I'm home!
Upgrade one of the items here.
Welcome back!
And we'll grab the recover upgrade.
Right on!
So the health and whatnot, we get a little more of it.
Good luck, Mega
And the
Man!
part toward the end where you fight all 8 robots again, that upgrade comes in a little handy.
Let's do it! I'm Aquaman! Ready!
Of course, a lot of the assets and stuff used for this stage of the game was used for Pirate Man and Mega Man and Base. One thing I don't like about Mega Man 8 is actually the swimming. Mega Man doesn't swim in any game other than this one. I think that crappy PC game came out as well. Which Mega Man swimming in general is just weird. I think Dr. Light built them waterproof, so that's good. So I found recently the flame sword works the best on him. I used to use the flash bomb on him, but flame sword seems to work a little better. So, let's see, what else can we talk about this game? Running out of things to talk about while playing it. Good to see Capcom coming out with another Mega Man game and supporting the franchise again. So that's a nice touch. Even though they're doing that horrible download for the Switch version, which I already complained about earlier in the video. Which I won't be buying the Switch version because of it, so. I'll stick to my numerous other versions of the game that I own instead of buying the Switch version.
Water balloon.
It's kind of ironic because a lot of my problems with modern video games is online based. You know, like online DRM and
I'm home.
day one patches and day one downloads required to play the game, and where I just don't buy brand new games as much as I used to because of it.
Right on.
But
Good luck, Mega Man.
like the Xbox One is probably the system I have the most trouble with in terms of that stuff, which is why I talked about in my past video where I've returned my console. Eventually got another one because of my backlog of digital library and also backwards compatibility, and also my friends were begging me to play PUBG with them, which I eventually gave in. I gave the system another chance, but the Xbox One version of Mega Man Legacy 2 plays just fine with no update required or anything. I popped it in and played it without doing any updating or anything like that, and it played just fine. Yet the Switch version requires the mandatory download, so that's unfortunate.
Fly, fly. Fly, fly, jump, jump.
Although that Game Pass service that Microsoft has out now, where it's like Netflix, it's like a rental service. I actually like that. I think that's actually a really good thing going on. I mean, if I'm gonna buy, if I'm gonna play new games and the only way to play them is digitally, I don't mind doing it that way because it's like a rental service.
Jump, 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 jump. Ah! Jump, jump, jump.
Kind of a cheap way to get through this.
Jump, jump, jump.
Don't have to worry about missing the jumps. And we'll grab this extra guy here just in case. This boss right here always gives me a little bit of trouble. Sometimes I have really good luck with him, sometimes not so much. So one more hit should do it. There we go. That was a good fight. Had a good luck on that boss. Of course, the fight on that with that boss on Mega Man and Base is way, way different.
Let's do it!
I probably like that game more than this one, just because I'm such a Super Nintendo fanboy.
Ready.
Then of course we got the shoot 'em up part again. Surprised they didn't put a soccer portion in this game. Like Mega Man Soccer. That'd be an interesting concept. I'm joking, of course. That's the one Mega Man game I actually don't have that I really want to get. I remember back in the day, my friends and I running that one weekend on Super Nintendo. We actually really enjoyed it. I probably remember it being way better than it actually is, but it was still a lot of fun. This part right here, you gotta, coming up, you gotta go through it pretty quickly because of the auto screen scrolling. Otherwise you'll get caught back and you'll get crushed. This part right here. And barely made that part. Got the boss battle here. Whoops. Hit that button by accident. I guess I could try making a whole Mega Man game, like shoot 'em up like this, but probably wouldn't have the replay value. It wouldn't be a good idea. There we go. Pretty simple boss. Bosses in this game aren't too bad. The final form of Dr. Wily is kind of the same fight as Mega Man in 7, although he's much more difficult in Mega Man 7. And for whatever reason, Mega Man 8, they didn't have energy tanks. Like Mega Man and 8 and Mega Man and Base were the only core Mega Man games that and the first one, of course, that didn't have energy tanks for some reason. Instead, you got Rush dropping down and dropping power-ups and health and stuff like that.
Ready.
Which was fine. It was a nice little switch. I didn't mind it too much. Kind of forced you to not rely on energy tanks, but still gave you a way to re-heal yourself. And of course, here we fight Base, which appeared in the opening cutscene.
Come on, Treble.
Because Base is jealous of Mega Man's penis size or something, who knows. Which, of course, in Mega Man and Base on Super Nintendo or Super Famicom, you select what character you want to play as. And if you play as Mega Man, it's basically like a classic Mega Man game, or like Mega Man 7 and 8. If you select Base, Base has different abilities. Like instead of sliding, he can do a dash, just like Mega Man X does. Instead of a power shot, he has like a rapid fire shot that can shoot in any direction. And he can also double jump. And of course the ending is different when you play it, when you beat it with Base versus Mega Man. No reason to grab that extra guy. Got too many of them as it is. And here we fight the green jelly monster. Anyone else remember that band? Green Jelly. Originally called Green Jello, but they got sued by the Jello company. Had that Three Little Pigs music video. I remember that was a monster hit when that came out. I wonder if that band's still around. I'm sure they are. Probably playing like a club somewhere or something. It was a good video. So this fight is much more easier with the laser shot. The arrow shot helps too. The arrow shot, when you shoot it and it hits an enemy, it basically splits off into a bunch of little pieces. The laser shot kind of penetrates through. But I find this fight much easier with the arrow shot. use a flash bomb on them too, that helps. But I just stick with you. Laser shot seems to work better. Hopefully I kill him in one more cycle. Yep, there we go. And we are on the last stage now, almost to the end.
Let's do it!
With some of my previous recordings, I had a much better time on this. And I think I set those videos to loop. So once those videos finish, they'll pick back up at the beginning. In case this boss fight takes longer than I expect.
Freeze! I'll crush you. I will beat you.
Of course, this game also came out around the same time as that Mega Man 64 Mega Man Legends Abomination. I had a friend that really liked the game back in the day. I thought it was horrible.
Are you worthy of my challenge? Here you go! No way! Here you go!
Oops. Missed that shot.
Here you go!
There we go. Still wasn't too bad of a fight. So when you beat one of the bosses, you get a weapon power up. Or not weapon power up, and health power up. So if you got that health booster with the bolts in the bolt shop,
Yo, geeky!
it makes this whole section here go a little smoother.
What are you doing? Ow! Ow! What have you done to me? Thunder Carnival! Ow! What are you doing? Ow! Ow! What have you done to me? What are you doing? Ow! See you in my dreams.
Crush everyone! Back bomb! Oh yeah!
If you do it right, you can, just like that, you can shoot his bomb back to him and do damage to him. Also, if you do it just right, you can actually kill him before he destroys the floor to go to the bottom section. Always thought a cool idea for a Mega Man game would be to take all the classic Mega Man games and combine them into like a Mega Man randomizer. So every time you play the game, it picks 8 random bosses, and the level layout should be randomized. So every time you put in the game and play it, you would have a different Mega Man experience every time. And of course, there'd be like multiple weapons that could work on multiple variations of different Mega Man villains on different games and stuff like that. But I always thought that'd be really cool. They got that fan-made Mega Man Maker game, kind of like the Super Mario Maker. It's a free download on PC. That's not too bad. I think a Mega Man randomizer game would be much better. If I knew how to code that kind of stuff for a PC, that's the game I would make. Hopefully someone watching this video that knows that stuff will hear that and make that. Feel free to steal my idea.
I'll do my best.
Of course, they'd have to make 8-bit versions of the Mega Man 7 and 8 characters.
Bonnie strike. Bonnie strike. Nice shots.
That shouldn't be too hard, though. Lots of talented people out there that know how to do that stuff.
I come here, but I don't know what to do.
And now we go to the Dr. Wily fight. And here we'll use the flame sword on him. And not off to a good start on this fight. Of course, every time he opens his mouth to shoot the beam, he just flame sword it and close it back up. Repeating this pattern. That wasn't too bad. Guess it could have been worse. So let's get some health here. Have Rush drop me something good. Hopefully he drops me something good and not something stupid. A little bit of health. Could have been better. have him do another health drop. Yeah, I got him. Shouldn't have any trouble killing him. And there we go. That is Mega Man 8 on the Sega Saturn. And of course, Dr. Wily gets away. Then we got the little anime cutscene. So yeah, that's Mega Man 8 on the Sega Saturn, PlayStation 1, Xbox 360, Xbox Original, Xbox One, and GameCube. So, quick recap. Sega Saturn is definitely the best one to get out of all of them because it has the exclusive bosses from Mega Man 1 and 2, Cutman and Woodman. The only problem is it's also the most expensive and only available on the Saturn. It was never ported over to anything else. And you can buy the Japanese version to have it a little cheaper. PlayStation 1 version, it's a lot easier to find, real cheap to find, even the physical version, also available digitally on PlayStation 3, PSP, and Vita. All the other versions, pretty easy and affordable to find, plus they include multiple versions of Mega Man. The original Xbox, or the Anniversary Edition on Xbox, GameCube, and PlayStation 2. The only problem is when you're playing on the GameCube, and probably the PlayStation 2, I don't have it to test it, but if you play on the GameCube, you have the scaling problems in terms of interlaced, instead of like a progressive resolution, so you kind of got that interlaced look, but it's not too bad. That's why it kind of has that blurry look to it, but the original Xbox version plays perfectly fine on that system. Playing that version on the 360 through backwards compatibility, kind of has that sprite flicker problems, not emulated real well, but it's still perfectly playable. And it's also not scaled correctly. Like I tried updating, or tried changing the resolution in the 360 system menu and tried different things, and it's still not scaled completely correctly, but it's still a playable game. And of course, the Xbox One version, or any other version of Mega Man Legacy 2, which is probably a near perfect port, but then again, it's a port of the PlayStation 1 version and not the Sega Saturn version. So yeah, that's Mega Man 8. Whichever version you think is the best, or whichever version you like below, please leave a comment below and subscribe and check back for more videos. Thank you.